All right, welcome back to another episode of the Four Train Savages podcast. We have episode number 80. Tyler, we continue to get up there in the episodes, approaching 100 pretty soon. For this episode, we don't just have me and Tyler. We have a special guest this episode, Eli Fishman. You guys know him from Yankees Twitter, of course. He covers the Yankees farm system, a Yes Network contributor, as well as a contributor for Pinstripe Prospects. Eli, thank you very much for taking some time to join us today. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty well. Just finished up some classes and happy to be here talking some Yanks.
Yes, sir.
What are you majoring in, if I may ask?
Sports media.
Hell yeah. Seems like that's right up your alley a little bit, huh?
Exactly.
To state the obvious.
I mean, that's I gotta commend you, man, because you're doing a lot of contributions to the Yes Network, and you're doing all this content for the Yankees farm system, and you're also a full-time student. So credits to you, man. I mean, you're doing some dope stuff, and like Yankees Twitter, you're as we were talking about before, and I was giving you credit, like a lot of the Yankees Twitter people, they're looking for the farm people are very important at this point, as we will kind of get into with guys like Volpe and Peraza and stuff. And you're a really good outlet for these people, or for fans, to kind of, get the inside scoop with a lot of the players and get the video, and they want to see the highlights. So, I mean, if you guys aren't already following this dude, you got to go follow him now. Eli J. Fishman on Twitter. Also follow him on the IG, but let's hop right into it, man. To kind of, we know what happened. We didn't really talk about it last episode, Tyler, with the moves. The last time that we left off on the pod was the Anthony Rizzo signing.
Yep.
But we know that Matt Olson ended up going to Atlanta. We know that Trevor Story signed with the Red Sox. Carlos Correa signs with the Minnesota Twins, and we know all the rest of the shortstop moves. So
Voit to San Diego as well.
Yes, there is Luke Voit to San Diego. Now it's very clear now that we have IKF at shortstop and what we're doing there, that we're kind of gearing up now for the future of Anthony Volpe. I think it was where he was ranked, I think in top 10. I think he was number 6 on the top baseball prospects. I could be wrong on that, but I think it was 6. But this guy, for better or for worse, he is getting a lot of pressure now on him by Yankee fans. And the Yankees are really kind of gearing up for this dude to possibly be the next shortstop of the New York Yankees. So, Eli, you've been covering him. You've been seeing him. What makes Anthony Volpe special, and why should Yankee fans be excited for this dude? Because I know I'm getting excited. Tyler's excited. A lot of the fans are ready to see this kid play, and we've seen him a little bit at spring training. But what have you seen from him?
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to watch him. I was at spring training last week and got to watch him day in, day out, doing drills, playing in games every day for a week straight, and then got to see him for a couple of days in Tampa and a couple of days in Hudson Valley during his season last year, and was just so much fun to watch in every single aspect. And, the pressure being put on him, and, how much Yankee fans are looking for him to be their savior, in a sense, is kind of crazy that he's looked at as like the future shortstop when he's, he just turned 20 years old. He's a kid. And when you meet him, like when you see him, like he's a really, really small guy. Like he could literally pass as, I don't know, a junior in high school.
One of us.
Like pretty much. Like he's a really small dude. But he's just so impressive on the field. He's just a wizard at shortstop, makes those insane plays that you're like, how does one make that play? The contact's always been there. He's always been an insanely fast guy. And what made him a top prospect, going from, he was 3, 4, 6, whatever it was on the Yankees charts, not even in the top 100. What made him make that jump is the power. Considering his size, the fact that this guy was hitting balls 450 feet last year was pretty insane. He doesn't have a big swing, doesn't strike out a ton, works a lot of walks, is patient, and he can hit the ball 450 feet. That's what really clicked for him last season. Worked a lot in the weight room, put on, a noticeable amount of muscle. And still has that insane speed, still has that great defense. So there's so many things that stand out. He's the complete package on the field for sure. He definitely has, that it factor that you talk about when you see minor league players, that guy who just stands out on the field. He definitely has that. But he's 20 years old and hasn't played above high A. There's a lot to go. There's a lot of pressure being put on him. You never know how prospects can turn out. A lot can go wrong. Things can change. Their bodies are still developing. You can gain muscle and lose speed, lose defense. It can go the other way around. You can lose power. There's just so many things that could happen. He's developing. He's aging. He hasn't faced insane competition yet. So there's some ways to go, but I'll say it looks promising.
That's good to hear. That's good. It's a lot
Absolutely.
of great things to hear. I mean, that's the thing is the timetable. It's not really exactly matching up perfectly with what Yankee fans are expecting now. What would you say if you had to, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot. What is are you thinking maybe 2024, 25, later than that, earlier than that? Like what, maybe just a rough estimate. It doesn't have to be, crazy, but
opening day 2023.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's his ETA on like all those MLB ranking sites. But I got a quick question for you as well, Eli. So you said, he's a whiz at short. There's also another top prospect in the Yankees org, obviously, in Peraza. That is, a lot of people think he could literally be a, MLB ready defensive shortstop now. Who knows? He'll probably end up getting some showtime this year. Do you think, if you were to kind of, I don't know, make a guesstimate into the future, you think Volpe is going to end up playing short, or do you think maybe, he could possibly move to second? Who knows what happens with Glaber? I got my fingers crossed with a good year, bounce back year for him. I don't know how he looks at third. I don't know if he's taken some reps at third. I'm sure he has in all types of camps and whatnot. But I don't know. Do you think he could actually end up, kind of being that stud shortstop, or does he kind of trickle into somewhere else in the middle infield?
I think he could definitely stay shortstop 100%. Yeah. He played a little bit of second base, and I know I tweeted it out that he was playing second base in the Yankees minor league spring training game.
Oh yeah.
And it was it was up there with like one of my tweets with like the most engagement, like retweets, likes, comments, and everyone freaking out about it. And I'm like, really? But I wouldn't put third base out of the question, but definitely middle infield. He can play second base and shortstop, and he has. I haven't seen him. I don't know, but I don't think he's really played third base. Okay. Peraza looks very, very good at shortstop. He's definitely going to play a role in the big leagues probably this year. From what I saw from him at spring training and last year in Double-A Somerset, he is definitely ready, or very, very close to it, to a big league shortstop. A lot can change in a year, though. A lot can change with moves, with trades, with a player not playing as well as you'd expect, a player playing better than you'd expect. So I think the Yankees are going to look completely different by the time Anthony Volpe gets to the big leagues, but he can definitely stay at shortstop.
Yeah. That's kind of the factor too. We were thinking he would be, well, we know the reports of Oakland really wanting Volpe, and that was kind of what they still didn't want that, but Peraza was more of the trade piece that the Yankees were willing. So obviously we have to see how that kind of shakes out for the, rest of the season and stuff, but it would be exciting to at least maybe see him this season at some point possibly, and they kind of showcase him. But two of the other, I think it was top 100 prospects, I was curious, we all know about the Martian, so I'll wait a little bit to ask you about that, but I was curious, where is Austin Wells at? Is he still kind of, I don't know if I saw tweets or reports, or is he still kind of looked at as a guy behind the dish that the Yankees are going to maybe see? I know his defensive prowess isn't really as attractive as his bat, but what's kind of the vibe with Austin Wells nowadays?
It's very in between. I mean, the dude has a big league bat. Like, he rakes, and he's going to be in the big leagues for his bat. You see that throughout the years, throughout all of baseball. It's not a guy's glove that gets them to the big leagues. It's their bat. And they're going to put them on the field wherever they need to be, wherever they can be, in order for their bat to get in a big league lineup. Mm-hmm. So I'm not necessarily that worried about that. And he has made some impressive strides behind the plate too. I think there's a long way to go. And especially with Yankees fans' displeasure with Gary Sanchez behind the plate, I think they're very, very similar. Austin Wells and Gary Sanchez in that sense that they have two very good bats, but maybe aren't the best defender. And definitely a lot of improvements to be made, and could definitely be a more well-rounded player. But man, a left-handed bat like Wells in the lineup would definitely serve well. There is he's been staying at catcher. Like there's been reports, tweets, rumors, whatever, articles that he's probably going to move away from catcher, but he's going to keep grinding at the catcher position as long as he can until he can't. So again, another young guy, those last year was his first professional season. So some ways to go, a lot of developing to go, and a few routes he can go, but the bat is definitely impressive.
Eli, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, in the Yankees farm in general, we don't have many, first base prospects at all. So I'm thinking, Rizzo's on a 2-year deal. I mean, that kind of opens the window for this whole young core to come in. Austin Wells potentially playing first, Volpe wherever he ends up, and then you're kind of just building around your 3 big guns and Stan, Judge, and Cole. And is that, you think that's a possibility? He moves off a catcher and kind of takes a stab at first with not too much talent in the Yankee org at first already.
Yeah, to go what you said, yeah, definitely a lack of first base talent. They signed Ronald Guzman, who's obviously first baseman because they really need some first base depth.
Yeah, I think Gittins was like the only guy last year.
Gittins was the only guy. They drafted Tyler Hardman. I think he was their 6th, 7th round pick last year. He's a first baseman and he's pretty good. But yeah, I could definitely see that. And as I said, a lot can change in short amounts of time, and who knows, Wells could be up this year if he's a first baseman. There's a lot of things that can change.
Okay.
Injuries kind of put pressure on the organization to possibly bring some guys up. We saw it even last year. So yeah, that I do like that idea though, Tyler, if it kind of move him to first base and hopefully he could, if he's got a big league bat like that,
yeah,
if you play, that's kind of the mantra.
I think it makes a ton of sense, but guys, pivoting real quick, right back to where we were at shortstop. Yanks have another very good prospect in Trey Sweeney at short. I don't know about you two, but I'm kind of not necessarily seeing the avenue that he, or the clear path to the show necessarily with dudes like Volpe and Peraza, like you said, Eli. A year or 2 can change a lot of things, but is there a chance that, because he's closer than ready, or excuse me, just as close as Volpe to MLB ready. Is there a chance we see him, or is he legitimate trade bait in the next 3-4 months? Because Trey Sweeney, future recent first round pick from the Yankees, he's got some serious upside.
Yeah, he definitely stood out at Yankees minor league camp, and in terms of a guy that plays well, speed on the bases. Looked really good. And again, there's been a lot of talk about him going to third, going to second. Okay. Potentially elsewhere, given that, and given that he's not, a top tier defender. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. And, another guy who he was just drafted last year, just a lack of experience. The pop is definitely there, long way to develop. And what these guys are like, they're like poker chips at the table. You can hold them, and you can pray that the right moves are made, they develop well, the game goes the right way, or you can cash them in for a trade, bring them up to the big leagues, make a move, whatever it may be. So definitely a long way to go for him. I think it'll probably be a couple of years for him. So it's to be seen if he'll be trade bait, if he'll make it to the big leagues with the Yankees, if he'll even make it to the upper levels of minors with the Yankees. That's how early it is. But he's definitely impressive. And again, a sweet left-handed swing and a shortstop who plays defense well, runs the bases well.
That.
Love it.
Absolutely. I alluded to it a little bit, but what you talked about it. You were down there watching the team, watching all these prospects. What was it like or I don't know if you've seen him before in person. What's it like seeing the Martian in person? Is that guy is he like, because I remember I used to go to New York Giants training camp, and I would see like the football players, and the one dude that stood out to me that was absolutely crazy was Jason Pierre-Paul, and he was just like a massive human, and you like look in awe of these athletes. Like, is Dominguez like, how polarizing is he when you see him on the baseball field? Is he like kind of like is he drawing people's attention the way that everyone's saying on Twitter and everyone's saying on these prospect top lists? Like, is it that crazy?
The short answer is no, not at all. Hate to blow the bubble. He's 5'10". Like people don't realize.
Just Googling his height right now. I was like, how tall is this dude?
He's 5'10". Like,
he looks built though. Like he looks like broad shoulders.
His quads are ginormous, and he literally looks like has the build of Saquon Barkley. Like, he's just a thick, muscular dude.
Yeah.
So he definitely stands out in that sense. But he is 5'10". So when people talk about, like, Jason Pierre-Paul, people were like Yankees Twitter, and I know some of the beat writers, because Anthony Volpe said it. They were comparing him to Aaron Donald. And I'm like,
that just don't make no sense.
That's a high bar.
5'10". Yeah. Like I stood next to him after one of the games, and I was like he's like his arms are like the size of my thighs. Like, he's ginormous in that sense, but he's very like short and compact.
Okay.
So I wouldn't use the word like giant, colossal, all these words that are being thrown around about him. But he definitely stands out for his physique, and in that sense, the speed. Like, considering how built he is, he moves very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool.
So where is he going to fit in like a center field situation, are you thinking? And what's a timetable on him has got to be further down the road, but what is his, are they shifting him around in the outfield? What has his approach been, or their approach been with him?
It's definitely been looking like they want him to stay at center field and kind of want to develop him as a center fielder. So a big part of that is not gaining more muscle, because obviously the more muscle he's going to gain, the agility and the speed is going to go down, and they want to, I think, and from what it looks like so far, they want to keep him as much of a 5-tool player or as close to that as possible. I mean, he has a cannon for an arm in the outfield. They're trying to keep him at center field, and I haven't seen him anywhere other than center field. If he bulks up a little bit, with age and with getting bigger physically, there's definitely the chance that that he'll go to the corners, even go to first base if he's that ginormous, muscular. There's a lot that can happen. And again, I mean, the dude just turned 19, so there's so much that can happen. But looks good in center field.
Yeah, I would say for most Yankee fans, we would like him to play center field.
Yeah,
that is
would love that.
Yeah.
Eli, thoughts on Hayden Wesneski so far this year? Excuse me if I stumbled on his name, but dude made a big jump in terms of kind of where he was ranked over the last couple of years. I think he was in the top 30. He may have been 30 last year. And now he's inside the top 10. And with, I believe, April, we have the 2 extra roster spots. You think there's a chance he's one of those spots come April, depending on how spring goes?
In April, that's tough.
I know, it feels tough. I feel like I'm stretching.
I could definitely see it.
Yankees love their sinker guys.
Really
that's
close. Why. He's really close. That sinker slider combo, throwing the 2-seam in there, like the Yankees love their guys that move 2 different directions. And he has like a sinker that goes down, slider that goes left, 2-seam that goes up and in. He's really impressive, and I had the chance to interview him, and we talked for 20 minutes. One of the best interviews I've ever done.
That's sick.
At spring training last week, and really got to know his personality. And so I cover Somerset mainly. They're a AA team, live 35 minutes, go to all their games. He came up with them last year, about a quarter way through the year, got the promotion from Hudson Valley, and he sucked. Like, he was horrible. And, on my last prospect list, he was like 30, 35, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
From what I saw in Somerset, I'm like, there's no way this dude is going to be anything. And he went up to AAA at the end of the season when Somerset's season ended, because there's an extra couple weeks for AAA, and he shoved. Like, he pitched insanely well. And I talked to him, like, we had a great conversation about like what he learned and what he figured out and how close he is to like being, you know, the end goal pitcher, and what was wrong in Somerset, and the difference of the levels, and how he looked in Scranton at the end of the year last year, and how he looked. I got to see, I don't know if I got to see, I think I just got to see one of his spring training starts last week. The way he looked, he's going to be in the big leagues this year, 100%.
Yeah. He did look nasty.
He looked really nasty. And yeah, definitely impressed. And if he really, as our discussion went, like if he really figured out his problems in Somerset and looked the way he did this season at the spring and at the end of last year, he might be fighting for a number 5 spot, number 5, 6. I don't know how they're going to do it this year. Spot in the rotation, maybe even he could be a long reliever too. But he's going to be in the big leagues this year, 100%.
I look forward to it. And I mean, I don't know if I'm getting a little greedy here, but you know, I would love to see him in the bullpen a little bit even. I mean, you know, we got some depth currently, knock on wood, in terms of starters. You know, when we look at Heel and Schmidt, Clark shoved a little bit today. Yanks love their hard sinker baller, 2-seamers in the pen. I mean, how awesome would it be to just kind of have him and Johnny Laza just going at it, learning from each other? I would love that. Clay Holmes in there as well. I mean, just dreaming.
Just dreaming.
Yeah, and then they've got a couple other hard throwing guys in the minors too. Luis Medina. I don't think we've seen him this spring, but he's another guy that's going to be a good bullpen piece.
He just struggles with his zone a little bit, right? Or am I okay?
Yeah,
because I know
same thing with Heel. Like they both are filthy, but it's not leaving the ball up and putting it and throwing strikes.
Yeah. I remember Heel in some game last year. I don't know which game it was, but it was a day game. I think he struck out like 8 or 9 in 4 or 5 innings. He also walked like 6. So
yeah,
and he only gave up like 1 hit, but it was awesome to see.
It's similar with Hayden too. He gave up a couple of long stretch of a few homers. And it's the same thing. Like, he's filthy. It's about command. You know, another thing, like when you move up the levels, and eventually move up to the big leagues, like pitcher or hitters, all the filthy pitches that you think they're going to swing at and they do throughout the minors, they don't swing at. So it's about being able to manage that and like throw strikes without leaving it somewhere where it's going to get hit to another dimension.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, we got a little bit of taste of Luis Heel last year, and I was going to, like Tyler said, hopefully barring injury and disappointing seasons, we kind of have some serious depth, but Yankee fans saw what this guy could do last year. And, you know, you've probably been watching it more than we have. But when we saw that, I mean, tall dude can really, he struggles with pounding the zone. And we kind of saw how it gets a little bit wild with him. For me personally, I could really love to see him as a part of like the 5th guy in the rotation, possibly. And I really hope that he kind of gets some burn in the big leagues. Do you think he'll kind of start off, or do you think they're going to start him in? I would probably say they're probably going to start him at AAA or something, but right.
Yeah. With that, it probably depends on, I hate to say it depends on service time and depends on the amount of options he has.
Dude.
Because I need to pay more attention to what the exact rules. I know there was just a change in how many options.
Yeah, there's a new option limit.
Exactly. So that definitely plays into consideration. So with that in mind, he's probably going to start in AAA. But if you throw that out, then he'd start in the big leagues. Or if they want to move him to the bullpen where they're not going to need to option him, or if he can go to a bullpen role where he'll pitch for 3 weeks, go option for 3 weeks, come back and forth, where they can manage it somewhere where they're not going over a limit and where they'll still have him under control for a certain amount of time. Like, there's so much behind the scenes, like number stuff And I to go on a quick rant, like I hate when Yankees fans on Twitter like talk about bring this guy up, bring this guy down, trade this guy, all this stuff. But it's a business. Like you don't want to lose these guys. You want to pay these guys the least amount of money for the longest amount of time without them hitting free agency, keeping them on your roster, not having to go through waivers. You have to pay a fine when they go through waivers. Teams have to buy guys off waivers. So if there's a guy you want to put on waivers, you can get the $50,000. There's just like such a complicated process of guys going up and down and all these rules, and then the Rule 5 draft and wanting to protect guys and trade guys. There's so much stuff that happens on the FanGraphs roster resource that you got to look at before you go and make a move.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance he could kind of end up in that. Me and Rob talk about this all the time. I mean, you pretty much need like 8 starters to get through a season, I think minimum. Yeah. But especially with Herman on the 60-day to start off the season, I mean, Nestor's probably going to sit in that 5 role. Depending on what they do with Mike King, but it doesn't look like they're going to really stretch him out to be that type of dude to start off. But I think he's got a good shot. Other than that, I mean, depending on what Clark continues to do in camp, I feel like it's kind of him, Heel and Clark kind of battling for that, 6/7-ish role.
Yeah, absolutely. And Heel, there's always been talk about him going to the bullpen, and I think about what about as an opener kind of role. I feel like he definitely fits that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about, I believe this was your first article. I saw the comments and the engagement on it. Every time that you throw out the next Randy Johnson, and I don't believe it was because of you. If you actually read the article, it's because of how people touted him in the Yankees farm system and just saying his nickname. But Henry Lillane, the 6'7" pitcher for us, I believe he's 17 at the moment. Little Randy is his nickname. So I went through the mentions and I looked at the article. I read the article, and you see like the Yankee fans out there. You see a lot of the boomers. We have a lot of conversations about the Yankee fan boomers on this podcast.
Unfortunately.
And sometimes I criticize people for making unrealistic comparisons and stuff, but this was literally coming from the organization and the people in that room. And so what do you see from this guy why is he what's the X factor, and what's kind of the it factor with this guy for why he kind of draws comparisons to good old Randy Johnson?
He's very tall, he's very lanky, and they have like the same delivery. Obviously, when a kid's nickname is Little Randy and you're doing an article about him, you're gonna put that as the headline. Like that's just how it works. I've never gotten to see him pitch in person. I think he's going to be in the complex league this year. Still 17 years old, and a long way to go. And I know they're working on bulking him up, putting some velocity on him, because he was low 90s. But you're still talking about a 6'7" lanky kid throwing low 90s at 70 years old. He's another guy where control definitely has some spots to improve on. In the control department, finding the strike zone. But, I didn't know not much about him. And then I was talking with one scout in the organization, and he's like, have you heard about this kid? Like the 6'7" kid in the Dominican Republic. And I had, and he told me about him and that his nickname was Little Randy, and did a story on him. And it was just a quick little profile on him. And that's it. Hopefully he's a long ways away, a very, very long ways away. I would love to see the exact percentage of what it is for going from the Dominican Summer League to the major leagues. 2%, 3, 4 would be my guess. Yeah, yes, that's the answer. But I mean, if your nickname is Little Randy, like maybe the percentage is just a little bit higher.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I give you credit. I think listen, it's the nickname. It's going to draw some criticism here and there, but I mean, we'll have to see it's a long ways down the road to see.
Oh yeah.
Hey, it's like keyword logistics 101. Just hammer it right there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Eli, thoughts on Oswaldo Cabrera? Is he? You think he'll be? I feel like there's a good chance he could be that last dude on the bench this year, kind of being a util guy, whether it be middle infield, throw him out in the outfield a little bit. You think he makes an impact this year?
The fact that they released Rougned Odor to put Oswaldo Cabrera on the 40-man roster tells you all you need to know.
Everything I need to know.
And add to that that the Yankees weren't even paying for Odor. The Rangers were, and they still released them to put Oswaldo Cabrera on the 40-man roster. And the funny part of that is that the Rule 5 draft got canceled because of the lockout, so they didn't even need to do that. But
that's something the Yankees like literally drool over too, dude. Is you free players? I mean, this is something that we know that I'm all excited.
That's why you add them to the 40-man, because you protect them, and now you have 6 years under control. That's the whole purpose. So, wanting to do that definitely says a lot about Cabrera. The speed on the bases and his IQ on the bases is something that we haven't gotten to see yet in spring training, but we've gotten to see his great defense and gotten to see his bat with a grand slam. The fact that he can play second, third, short with a great glove, probably faster than Odor, and definitely more power. I think the strikeout rate is a little bit higher, quite higher than Odor actually, but Cabrera is really, really impressive and was a lot of fun to watch last year in Somerset, was the league MVP. So, I feel like that's very telling. And the fact that he had a grand slam in spring training so far and the hype around him coming into spring training added to the 40-man, all this, I think if he has a good spring, if he continues to play well, if he shows out in front of Aaron Boone, he's really, I'm trying to think of who exactly he's fighting over that spot with. Marwin Gonzalez, maybe in that mix, Jose Peraza, Oswald Peraza, but none of them are as fast and none of them can play all three positions. Or Marwin can play like a little bit of outfield, first base, third. I don't know exactly, but a good spring, and I think Cabrera is going to be that utility man in the bigs.
I'm hoping Marwin stays down there, not in the show for the most part, if I'm being honest.
A possible, Josh Donaldson, possible injury or someone, and you never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
That's what I'm saying. It's easy for him to kind of get that spot. It's kind of almost embarrassing. I don't know this. Is his primary position? It's second, I believe, right? Or am I wrong?
I mean, from watching him all last year, he was one of those guys that like for a week will start at short, week will start at second, week will start at third. Some like he literally played all three. I would say he played the most second base.
Okay.
I don't even know about that. He played a lot of third base. Like he literally just played all three positions. Like that was
good to me. Good to me.
Yeah, for real. So we know about how kind of strong our farm system is for the Yankees, and we know all the big names that we kind of hear. Who is a guy that maybe we haven't talked about that you see as an under the radar guy that you watch and you go, this dude can play? Like, I think Yankee fans should maybe pay more attention to this guy that maybe we haven't talked about so far on the pod.
That's tough. There's a solid amount. Andres Chaparro is one of my favorites. He hit a double in spring training the other day that was 111 miles per hour off the bat. And he kind of broke out last year. I think he had 15 home runs between low A and high A, and he's had exit velos of over 117 miles per hour.
That's Stanton territory.
Yeah, that's Stanton territory. He's a big dude, has a lot of has some insane pop, plays third base and first base. So you talk about that first base scenario. He's been getting reps both at third and first. He'll be in Double A to start the season in all likelihood. One of my favorite players, or a couple actually at the lower levels. I'll start with Antonio Gomez, who's a catcher and one of the best defensive catchers out there, period. His pop time was the same as JT Realmuto, and he was throwing 90 miles per hour from catchers from behind the plate to second base. He's like as good of a defensive catcher as there is. I think Baseball America said he has the best arm in all of minor league baseball, any team, any level, any affiliate, all pro baseball. So the bat has some work. He's also really young. I think he just turned 20, and has barely played above low A, or barely played above rookie ball. Just got a couple games of low A last year. There's another kid, Tyrone Yulee, who was in rookie ball last year. Has reached 101 miles per hour, filthy slider, big league stuff, but can't really find the strike zone. So if he can figure that
common
out,
problem, it seems
Common
like.
pattern,
Common
man.
problem.
Come on.
It's just how it is.
Yeah.
One more guy, Cooper Bowman, who was a 4th round pick last year, I believe.
I
out
said
of
to
Louisville.
Rob before we hopped on, I was like, dude, who the hell is Cooper Bowman?
He's really good. He's really good.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
Who is any thoughts on Beck? I've never even heard of Beck Way, but what a name by that guy.
Love that way.
Any idea on him?
Yeah, he filthy slider.
Okay.
Another, I think he's a sinker ball guy too. Pitched really, really well in low A last year. And then I think he was a JUCO Florida guy, 5th round pick in, I believe, in 2020. So last year was his first pro season. Pitched really well in low A, struggled in high A when he got promoted towards the end of the year, but filthy. Look like, one of those guys that if he gets in a big league spring training game, he's going to end up on Pitching Ninja also.
He's a neck snapper. Beck Way, good name and a neck snapper.
Yes.
Before we let you go, Eli, I was just curious, with the amount of time that you cover, the Somerset Patriots and everyone in the Yankees farm system, kind of, how much time do you usually get to ever watch the big leagues? Are you still tapping into the games, or how often are you watching the big team?
I try. I think I like a lot, definitely a lot. And also you consider I'm at school, like I'm at college right now. So I went like August 13th, 14th last year. So I had like a month and a half plus where I was, watching a little bit of MILB TV, but watching mainly the big league club every night.
Yeah.
And I'm at school. It's killing me, but I'm at school, like locked down a little bit, until like mid-May. So the first month and a half of the season, the minor league season, I'm going to be watching from my dorm room, which is going to be really, really hard. But I do watch a lot of the big league club. I've been watching all the big league spring training games, except for me, the most fun part is the last 3 innings when the minor league guys go in. Yeah. I get to see like these kids that I've been watching.
All your boys.
Yeah.
There's some guys like I've literally grown up with them, like Everson Pereira, I've known since he was 18 years old. In Staten Island, when the Staten Island Yankees were around, I would go to a lot of their games and interview guys and cover them. And so like I've known him since he was 18, and now he's in the last couple innings of the big league spring training games. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. What did you make what are your takes on the team heading into the season? How do you feel from the off-season moves and stuff?
I have always been the kind of person that have faith in Brian Cashman and that analytics department and the scouting department, because one person in that department knows more than every single person on Twitter, every single Yankee fan that's not in that front office. They know so much more. They have such a better idea. When people say something about a move, say something about the lineup, there's so many things behind it. And there's a reason that lineup is the way it is. The roster is the way it is. Those guys are on the field. There's a reason that Brian Cashman, who's really as good as it gets as a GM, and to be the GM for the Yankees and have as much success as he's had, sign as good of contracts as he's had, the steals he's had. You talk about Clay Holmes, Wandy Peralta, Joely Rodriguez last year. Steals in the draft, looking at their farm system, all these good things. Have faith. That would be my message to Yankees fans. Part of that is because all the negativity on social media, and I recently tapped into Yankees Reddit and suggest no one else do not do that.
I'm going staying far away.
That's Yankees Twitter on steroids, I bet.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
It is.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, completely agree. It's kind of, we got to have faith in the team at this point. I've been critical of the moves and stuff, but now I'm just happy we got baseball back, man. Because when we were starting and it was looking very doom and gloom for a while, man. But now we get to see the show finally on April 7th, and you're gonna still be out there covering the MLIB and all the minor leagues, and we appreciate it. But Tyler, you got anything to leave off with Eli before we head out?
Yeah, I mean, Eli, dude, just to kind of give you props as to everything you're doing real quick. I mean, I was telling Rob before we hopped on, he said you started, I believe, when you were 11. I was like, bro, I wish I had the drive when I was 11 to do literally anything that I cared about. So like, appreciate you coming on. You're fucking killing it, dude. And yeah, I do have one more baseball question for you before we head out. Thoughts on Devi in 2022? Took a little bit of a dip, as we all know, last year, but is he making a comeback? What do we got?
Appreciate the kind words. Thank you. Thank you. And it's been awesome to see like the Yankees Twitter support too. Never thought I would be a Yankees Twitter member, but in terms of Devi, it's so tough because I saw his outing in one outing of his in Scranton last year. Final line was like 2 innings, 2 homers, 5 runs. He just looked horrible.
Yeah.
But through one spring training game, he looked really, really good. And Sam Breed and Matt Blake have quite a good history of turning pitchers from nobody to star, turning them around, helping them figure it out.
Yeah.
So I can definitely see that. I'm not ruling out that he's not going to come back by any means. He may very well like come back to that 2019, 2018 Devi, which was, as good as it gets in terms of the prospect. But I'm very cautious. Like I'm not very optimistic yet.
Cool. You heard it, guys. Devi Cy Young candidate to 2022 per Eli.
Yeah. But Eli, man, we appreciate it, man. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep killing it. Don't be a stranger on Twitter or anything. Maybe hopefully we can have you on at some other point and maybe talk some more about maybe Volpe and all these guys. But we appreciate you coming on, man.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. Really, really, really appreciate it. And anytime.
Yep. So that is it for episode number 80 of the 4 Train Savages podcast. If you guys don't follow Eli, go follow him now on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter at 4 Savages, as well as our Instagram at 4 Train Savages. That's it for episode 80. We will catch you guys next time.